Hello, everyone, and welcome to this broadcast of the Prism 4 School of Business. I'm Salome Chung, CEO of Prism 4 Enterprises. Welcome back. If you are a frequent viewer of this channel and this listener to this podcast, you know that we always try to provide innovative and out-of-the-box solutions to business issues. On today's episode, I would like to talk to you about the age-old concept of bartering, but approach it from a new perspective. My guest today is going to tell you all about bartering and how it can be used as a hedge against inflation for business owners. And my guest is Edward Fox, and Edward is the owner and CEO of Transact Bank of Tennessee. And I hope I got that right. It's Trade Bank of Nashville, rather.
Correct.
So, Edward, I want to have you. I hope the introduction was sufficient.
That's
But
great.
if not, I know that you will tell the people who you are, what you do, and how you can teach business owners how to really make the concept of bartering more mainstream for business owners.
Right. Well, hey, thanks for having me on the show, Salome. I'm excited to be here. And, barter was something that I grew up doing. We did it as kids. We bartered and argued with our brothers and sisters, our mums and dads, and said, oh, look, can I do this tonight if I do that tomorrow? That's a barter, right? Mum says, hey, empty out the dishwasher before you can go outside and play. That's a barter deal. I have to give something to get something. And so we don't think about that. But even as spouses, a lot of the times husbands and wives will talk about, oh, you know what? I'll let you sleep in instead of having to get up with the kids. If you will let me do this, then, that's a barter deal. So we barter all the time. We just don't think about it in those terms.
How can business owners use it as a hedge, Edward, against inflation? Because things are tough for business owners, and we're all looking for ways to maximize our revenues and reduce our costs. So talk about that.
Yeah, so we could do like 10 shows on how they can hedge against inflation with barter. So I'm going to try and make it simple, but folks, don't hesitate to reach out to Salome or myself if you've got questions, and she can put you in touch with me, or you can find all my details in probably the show notes after this episode goes live. But here's the deal. Barter allows us to take our cost of goods, our things. Let's say we make widgets, right? Birthday cakes, wreaths, floral bouquets, whatever it is, whatever our product or service is, we take that, and that has a certain cost to it, right? So if I make cakes and I sell cakes, I'm a wedding cake maker, right? So let's say a wedding cake sells for $100. Salome, does that cost me $100 to manufacture? No. Okay. Normally it costs me somewhere between 20 and 30 cents on the dollar. Okay, so whatever your cost of goods is, you know what it is. And if you don't know what it is, you need to talk to Salome anyway and figure out cost of goods. But for those of us that are more emotionally factored than the money factored sort of thing, imagine being able to take what we make that we have left over and trade that for things we need. Well, our cost is virtually nothing because it's a leftover product or time, right? So if I cut lawns for a living and I have no bookings at 2:00 on a Wednesday, then that's a time slot that's not making me any money. So I go to Salome and I say, hey, Salome, would you coach me a little bit if I could mow your lawns on your lawn on a Wednesday at 2:00? That's a barter deal. So if Salome says, well, I'll give you 3 coaching sessions for 3 lawn mowing, how much did that cost me? And how much did that cost her? But we both got good value out of it. So that's traditional one-on-one barter, right? So we can hedge against inflation no matter what the business type we have. But if we sell a product or we sell a service, we can normally make that work. Now, the areas, there's always a disclaimer, right? The areas that won't work in is if you don't own the business. If you don't own the business, you can't offer anything for barter. So if you work for Allstate Insurance, you can't say, oh, I can do your insurance on barter. You can't. That'd be against the law. You can't do that. It's their business, not yours, right? You just get a little piece of the pie. So what you need to do is that you need to own the business, or you need to be a franchisee of, say, I don't know, a Dairy Queen or some sort of restaurant. And you know that your food costs run about 30%. Your let's say your franchise cost runs about 8%. So you got 38 cents into your dollar, and then Trade Bank or a barter exchange comes along and they barter gift certificates for you to get things you need, like advertising, carpet cleaning, window washing, all sorts of stuff, right? Parking lot cleanup, website design, whatever it is.
So in essence, Edward, you could, and you've asked the question, what if you could trade for everything you needed instead of paying cash for anything? So you are in a position where you're a business, and as you said, I need someone to clean my offices every night, but I don't want to pay for that. But I'm in the business of, let's say I'm a nail salon, and my business need to be cleaned. Well, you can offer salon services for someone to come in and clean your offices. I guess that's a simple way of putting
that would be simple barter back and forth, right? Since the 80s, they've had barter exchanges, and a barter exchange is a managed barter platform where you have a person that starts a network of people that want to barter. They don't necessarily want to barter direct, but they want to barter within the system. So in other words, you need your salons cleaned, but I don't need my nails done, right? So on a one-on-one barter system like you just laid out, we probably wouldn't do any work, right? It wouldn't work. But if we were both in the local barter network and we allocated a amount, so cleaning your office costs you $160, and you say, well, I'll offer $160 worth of my services for somebody, and then I can pay for the cleaning of my offices, right? And so you would barter with Jennifer down the street. Jennifer says, okay, I want to buy your gift certificate for $160. And so she pays you in barter currency. So you now have $160. And then you pay me to come clean your office $160 barter dollars. So it's an alternative currency, but it gets you what you want. It gets me what I want. And then I've got barter currency that I go eat at my local restaurant that takes barter. And so a managed barter platform is kind of a cool way. We just have our own little network of individuals that all want to barter within the network.
Okay. So how does one accumulate barter credit within such a network? Let's say I have no clue about what bartering is, and I want to get into this network because, as you said, sometimes the simple barter system one-to-one won't work because what you're offering is of no value to me.
Right.
How does one get into that network, and how do they accumulate barter dollars?
Right. So most barter networks keep it pretty simple. They allocate a barter dollar, a barter credit, a barter point, whichever way you want to call it, that equates to $1. So whoever you are, if you're an accountant, if you're a plumber, if you're a restaurateur, you know that your meal, product, or service is X amount of dollars for US dollars. Well, you just make it X amount of dollars for barter dollars, right? So if it's a $10 widget, it's $10, whether it's $10 barter or $10 cash. So that keeps it really simple and uses a system that we're familiar with. But you can only spend that 10 barter dollars within the network. The cool thing being is that I had a friend that traded $5,000 worth of camera equipment for $5,000 gift certificates to this restaurant. And he did that one-on-one barter. Well, then the restaurant closed down during COVID and didn't reopen, and he's got $5,000 worth of useless gift certificates. But if he'd been in the barter network, he could have just bought the gift certificates. The restaurant could have paid him the 5,000 barter dollars. And then my friend who has the camera business would have just bought restaurant gift certificates as he needed, and he might have spent some of the 5,000 on something else. And so a managed barter platform stops against a business going out of business. It stops against unfair trade value. It also helps with things like, let's say that your cost of your product is $1, okay, and you sell it for $5. For you to buy a new HVAC unit would be a lot of $5 item sales, right? If you were trying to just trade directly with the HVAC company, that would never work because he could never use enough of your $5 product, whatever it is. However, if you go out to your network and say, hey, barter people, I have this product for $5. I need to sell 1,000 of them. So I'm putting 1,000 of them available for barter at $5 a piece. Well, let's say 500 people picked up 2 each. Mm-hmm. Let's say 100 people picked up, what is that, 10 each? You know, so now you have the barter dollars. Now you go buy your HVAC unit. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So yeah, so it can really help. A managed barter platform can really help in a way that one-on-one barter can't.
Do you have any numbers or statistics, Edward, about what percent of businesses are using the barter system?
So the one
it would seem like a no-brainer to me, especially for small business. But what are the numbers?
Well, here's the thing. Nobody wants you to know that they barter because they want your cash. So if I said to you, Salome, oh, I'll barter goods and services, blah, 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 and then you come to me and say, hey, I want to barter with you and I'm really hurting for cash. I want cash. I don't want barter. So I don't want you to know that I barter. So that's why having a captive audience or a network that we work within is the only place we promote barter works. But to answer your question, Harvard Business Review evidently had an article back in the day, and I can't find it, okay? So you take this with a grain of salt. But they said that 92% of Fortune 500 companies have done some barter. Because when they try and operate on a big level, and an example that you can look up, if you look up Pepsi as the 6th largest military, Business Insider did a story, I think it was, that Pepsi briefly became the 6th largest military in the 80s. They traded $3 billion worth of Pepsi products for decommissioned warships. They got 17 submarines, a frigate, a corvette, and a destroyer for $3 million worth of Pepsi product because the Russian ruble was worth nothing, right? This is before the Iron Curtain comes down. And so they found a way to get Pepsi into Russia by trading for scrap metal. And then they sold off the scrap metal for cash. So big barter deals like that, down to your local pizza shop, bartering with your guy that does your direct mail postcards by giving him gift certificates to swap pizza for postage.
Awesome. So how does one get into, since it's kind of like a entry?
Yeah, it's like a secret society kind of thing.
Like a secret society. How does one get in?
Right. Well, number one, we don't even know it exists until we've heard it, right? We've done bartering one-on-one, but we don't know that these barter networks exist. So I'm going to give you some tips. Google is your friend. So you can Google, you can say, hey, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Is there a barter exchange or a barter network in Atlanta, Georgia? You might find things like a Facebook group that barters. Now, that's traditionally one-on-one barter, but most of the time you'll say, oh, is there a barter exchange? Is there a barter network? Is there a barter platform? Is there a barter managed platform? Any of those terms should find you a barter network. But if you're struggling and you're not finding a barter network, feel free to reach out to me and I can put you in touch with barter networks around the country. I had a friend up in New York and he said, well, I'd like to do that. Can I do that through your company? I said, well, we operate in the Southeast. So from Charleston, South Carolina, out to Memphis and up to Wichita, Kansas, we have franchises in those areas. So he was in New York. I said, well, not really. Like we don't have business up there. So it'd be hard for you to spend barter dollars locally. And so he said, oh man, I really wish I could do barter. And so I got on Google and I said, hey, Google, barter exchange, Hudson Valley. Oh, Hudson Valley Barter Exchange. So I read some reviews, made sure they were legit, called up the owner, had a conversation with him, and then I recommended my friend talk to them about joining that Barter network. So that's the easiest way to join a Barter network. Now, of course, if you're in Nashville or Wichita, I'd love to talk to you, and I'd love to have you as a customer, because I own Trade Bank of Nashville and Trade Bank of Wichita, which is a franchise. So there's other Trade Bank cities around the Southeast as well.
So it's either the direct, a platform, a Barter group, or a Facebook group. Is there a cost typically I know the direct is kind of,
Right. So a Facebook group,
yeah.
there's normally not a cost for a Facebook group, or maybe there's a Craigslist. Is Craigslist still around? I don't know. But there's a Craigslist listing of people that will barter. You'll see that occasionally. You'll see some barter groups on LinkedIn or something that don't charge anything. But a managed barter platform, for a fee, they will help you connect and market and promote. So like from my perspective, I have 4,000 members from Charleston to Memphis up to Wichita that are in the Trade Bank system. So what I could do is I could say, hey, look, Connie, Salome, it costs you, let's say $500 to sign up, one-time fee. And then for $15 a month, I will promote you to the 4,000 members. If a marketing company came to you, Salome, and said, for a $500 setup fee one time, oh, and by the way, if it doesn't work, I'll give you your money back. Okay, so we offer a money back guarantee. $500 one-time setup and $15 a month, I will promote you and market you to this captive network of 4,000 members. Does that sound like a deal? Nobody else is offering you a money back guarantee or $15 a month. Now, some other barter exchanges, they might charge a little more, they might charge a little less. And then all of us have a percentage fee for either helping you make a sale or make a purchase, right? And so some of them do like half when you make a sale and half when you make a purchase. Trade Bank does nothing when you make a sale and everything when you make a purchase, right? And they'll vary somewhere between 12 to 14 to 15% overall.
Okay. Are there any restrictions, Edward, to as let's say, for example, for someone in your network, in your organization,
there are certain
sign up, are there any restrictions? Because sometimes on Facebook groups you can't do certain things,
right?
But I see this as an opportunity not just to barter or trade with another business. It's a great way to network and with businesses, and to grow your business actually in space.
Salome, exactly. What happened to me is I was a client before I bought the franchise, right? And as a client, I tracked referrals that came in from Trade Bank for trade dollars, but then I got referrals from Trade Bank customers that weren't on Trade Bank. So I got their friends that paid me cash. I used to sell advertising. And so I had a guy come to me. He says, "Oh, I want to do an ad." I said, "Oh, you're a Trade Bank member." He says, "No, I don't do the barter stuff. My friend does barter. I just want to pay cash." Oh, okay. So I would, for the $30,000 I took in trade my first year, and mine's abnormal. I take more trade because I can use it. Once you figure out how to use it, you want to get as much as you can. So I took $30,000 in trade, but I made about $15,000 cash additional business from referrals. So like you were saying, as a networking tool, it was a great way of bringing my services out to other business customers because I was B2B. I have a lot of friends that are in the B2C field that use barter. Like if they come and mow your lawn, they might do door hangers or a yard sign so that your neighbors see it. Well, your neighbors aren't going to be on a barter exchange, are they? They're going to pay cash. So that generates extra business for them. So yeah, it just depends on which format, which network, the way you want to barter. And the restrictions tend to be different things. So let me talk about my restrictions. If you're a thief, a crook, or a scoundrel, I don't want you, right? I have to be able to say, hey, Salome, this person is worth doing business with. If they've got a 2.0 Google score, I'm probably not going to let them into my barter network, because most of the time businesses like that they're not making any money and they're looking for a way to just con somebody else out of their money. That's not what we're looking for. So we're looking for 4.4 Google reviews or higher for a business. And we're looking for people that I can build a like, know, and trust with, that I can refer them because they're good people. Now I would have to say that the majority of business owners out there are good people. Normally, if we have a conflict, it's because expectations weren't met or weren't understood, right? Mm-hmm. It's sort of like when you're growing up or when you've got kids and your kid has a certain expectation and mom and dad have a certain expectation. And there's conflict when those expectations don't meet. Well, it's the same thing in business. If we're not very good at our marketing message, if we're not very good at clearly stating what we will and won't do in our contracts and in our agreements, then there's going to be conflict, and that's where problems come. So in the barter industry, we always recommend that you get a written quote, that you write either via email or something to clearly state what is going to be transacted, what I'm paying in barter dollars and what I'm having to pay in cash if there's a mix. And so the more questions you answer, the easier it is. Now, when you walk into the restaurant to buy a slice of pizza or a pie or an entire pie, you don't need a contract, right? He says, what sort of pie you want? Oh, I want a pepperoni pizza. Okay, large, small, medium. Oh, medium. I'm a trade bank member. Can I use trade bank dollars? Yes, you can. It'll be $26.95 and a 20% cash tip. Okay, $26.95 on my trade bank card. That's barter dollars. Cost me 12 cents on the dollar from the commission to trade bank. And 20% tip. Oh, I don't have cash. Can I run a card? Well, we need to run $1. I said, oh, okay, well, I'll do the 20% tip plus the $1 and I run it on my card. So they get the cash tip and they get the trade dollars for the pizza. That's the way that we tend to operate. Now, if they're going to build a fence or they're going to install a ceiling fan or something, I would get quotes from different people in the barter network if there's more than one. And I would ask them on a completion time, how long is that going to take you? When can you start? When are you going to finish? How much do I have to pay in materials? And how much do I get to pay in trade for the labor? Normally, they just trade labor on construction. When you get that all laid out beforehand, it's all black and white. It's very clear, and the transaction goes wonderfully well. All the transactions that I've ever had that didn't go well is they didn't clearly define what the job was.
Okay. And do you get reviews?
We don't get reviews, but our clients will call in and say, oh, don't kick that guy out. He did this. And I'll call that guy, and that guy will say, oh, kick the other guy out because he never paid me, And so you sort of have to, we're not a mediation service, right? We're a payment records keeper. So you guys have to sort out your junk together. But if we can be a little helpful, we'll put a little time in to try and help these guys see from each other's point of view. But 90% of the time, it's no different than a cash transaction, right? A lot of times there's miscommunication with a cash transaction as well. So people go, oh, it's only like this in barter. No, that's ridiculous. It's like this with every time there's some sort of exchange of value, that you didn't set the right expectations. So
where do you find most of your clients are coming from?
Most of my clients are small business owners, and I get them from networking. I'm not a cold caller, right? So I'm not, I've tried it. It's just who wants to be bothered by a phone call or a cold email? Most people only give you 13 seconds to read your email. So if you've got an email, a mile long, they're not going to read it, right? And if you don't have a catchy headline, like, good day, I think this probably won't work, but open me up and check anyway, something that's different, right? So I tend to find that through networking and through referrals, people that I know, like, and trust will refer me out to their businesses that they know, like, and trust, and we'll end up working together.
Yeah, this is a really interesting concept to me. And it's really when you say that, people don't really want you to know they're trading, they're bartering, of course, because people would
they need the cash. But, you can't pay your house, you can't pay your mortgage with barter dollars.
Barter. Yeah. But I mean, for those services that you can, why wouldn't you?
Right.
And for me, there are, as a small business, this is just something that would be extremely valuable for a small business owner, especially those that are struggling. And if you're in such a network and you can really find a way to avoid paying cash, and really, plus, if you're bartering with someone else, they get an opportunity to experience your services.
Well, think about living
they,
social.
yeah, they otherwise wouldn't experience your services because if they're not paying for it. So,
They would never know how good or bad you are at what you do. But
exactly.
instead of giving it away for free or giving it away at 50% off, like Living Social or Groupon or one of those, you're getting full retail value for your product or service. So if you sell a wedding cake for $1,000, you charge them $1,000. Now, the cool thing is, if I put $100 cash in your hand, or let's say 1,000 in this case, if I put $1,000 cash in your hand or 1,000 barter dollars in your hand and say, Salome, go buy an awesome cake that costs $1,000. Whatever you don't spend, you can put in your pocket. Are you going to spend the cash and keep the barter dollars, or spend the barter dollars and keep the cash?
Mm-hmm.
You're
Awesome.
gonna you're going to spend the barter dollars and keep the cash, because in your mind, cash is king. But what you've just demonstrated by your action is, well, I think it would be smarter to spend the barter and keep the cash. So which one was king in that case? Was it really the cash that was king because you were going to keep it? Or what got you what you wanted was the barter, right? So the key is, if I line up 4 cake shops in front of you and 3 of them only take cash, credit, check, and the 4th one takes cash, credit, check, and barter, and you have barter dollars and you have cash, but you need to save your cash to pay your rent this month, which one are you going to use? You're going to go to the barter one, if they're all being equal. If they're same type of product, same type of prices, same type of quality, you're going to go to barter. Well, the 3 other cake shops, they're laughing. They're going, he. Salome took fake money. She took barter dollars. That crap, you can't do anything with it but expend it in the barter network. Well, you know what? You needed a cake. You were going to pay $1,000 cash for that cake, but you ended up getting it for 1,000 barter dollars. Your cost on that is going to be whatever the percentage the barter company charges for bringing you the business or helping you make that purchase. And it's going to have the cost of goods of whatever it cost you to earn that $1,000, which on average is around nothing to 30%, depending, right? The other businesses missed out on your $1,000. The business that took your $1,000 laughing all the way to the bank, because that cake, did it cost them $1,000 to make the cake? No, it did not. It cost them about $300.
Yeah.
Right? So now they've got 1,000 barter dollars that only cost them 300. They go out and they spend that $1,000 on 10 weeks of window washing at their bakery. Right? $100 a week to wash their windows. How much are the other guys paying who use the same company to wash their windows but are paying cash? They're also paying $1,000 cash for 10 weeks of window washing. You're paying 1,000 barter dollars for 10 weeks of window washing. $300 and whatever the commission to the barter company, which is about $120, 12% for us. So you got $420. They've got 1,000. They've got 1,000 profit dollars going into that cost. You've got $420. I'm no mathematician, but that's a good hedge against inflation.
Awesome. Yeah. So what I'm hearing, Edward, is in addition to that magnificent hedge against inflation, you're talking about visibility, you're talking about creating relationships, you're talking about networking, all the other benefits that you get other than being able to trade for trade in the platform, in the system. Because I would think most business owners and small business owners would be more interested in being part of a network, because the direct barter to barter won't always work. and Facebook groups can be a little restrictive. So I'm hearing all kinds of benefits, but I see you're saying it's by far the easiest and least expensive way to bring in new clients guaranteed. So for all the benefits that I've outlined and what we've discussed, what would you want a business owner to know who has maybe didn't know such barter networks existed? And what would you say that why should they become a part of your network? What's, other than we've outlined some pretty great benefits,
Right.
but, you know, someone who's not as open-minded as say you and I, they want to know brass tacks, what's in this for me. What would you say to those types of business owners?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things at work here. Number one, I normally get, well, it sounds too good to be true. Is it legal?
Yes.
Right? Is it legal? Yes, it's
Yeah.
legal. Right on your tax forms, it says, "Have you bartered? What's the value of the barter that you've done?" Okay, so they collect that information as long as you pay your taxes and you're not doing anything illegal, right? We can't do, you're not going to trade your recreational drugs. That's illegal, right? You can't do anything illegal. So what we're doing is I say to people, look, Dale Carnegie wrote a fabulous book back in 1936 called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in that book, he made the statement, a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. My goal isn't to convince anybody to join a barter exchange against their will. When I first looked at it, Salome, as a client, I ran the other way for 6 months because I was happy doing one-on-one barter. I didn't see why I needed a managed barter platform. Finally, when I got to know this guy through networking that